Good evening. Welcome to the City Commission work session for Wednesday, March 15th. And for those of you who are historians, what is today? Thank you. It is the Ides of March. So those of you that like Shakespeare know that that is a very significant day in Roman history. So it got mentioned today at another meeting, and everybody at my table knew what it was. So that was kind of fun. All right, so tonight we have on our work session agenda, we have one topic item, but before we do that, we're going to do the roll call.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. All right, so tonight's discussion item is regarding the Memorandums of Understanding, sports field fees, and neighborhood associations. Mr. Reed, are you our lead-off staff person tonight?
I am. City Commissioners, Mayor, tonight we will be discussing Memorandums of Understanding, sports field fees, and neighborhood associations. Tonight I have with me Jonathan Waverly, our Parks Manager, and Melissa Sebastian is online, who is our Aquatics and Recreation Manager, and they will be available to answer any questions. Oh. Okay. So tonight, what we're hoping to do is to have some additional conversations about three specific memorandums of understanding, the MOUs for Oregon City Youth Sports, Oregon City Soccer, and the Friends of the Ermitinger House. We will be discussing the history of fees, maintenance costs, fee comparisons for sports fields, and we hope to also discuss neighborhood associations, policies, fee waivers, and funding. So as you know, with Oregon City Youth Sports and Oregon City Soccer, we have implemented memorandums of understanding with these two groups. We have an agreement with them to implement fees associated with use of the fields. We agreed to a tiered fee structure of $5 the first year, $7.50 the second year, and $10 for year 3. So history of sports field fees, we referenced that in our last conversation that the sports field fee goes back to December 20th of the year 2000. It goes back to the former Community Services Director. The fee was implemented for $10 per hour for sports fields. There was also an additional fee structure that references park fees back in 2012 that also references the $10 hour fee for sports fields. The Parks Department never charged Oregon City Youth Sports or Oregon City Soccer for use of the fields. The Parks Department has always charged $10 per field for any kind of outside groups and other youth sports organizations outside of Oregon City. So for sports field maintenance, what I wanted to do here is just show a list of some of the responsibilities associated with the Parks Department, and also highlight what the responsibilities associated with Oregon City Youth Sports. Here, what you'll see is an estimate of the indirect and direct costs associated with fields and support for maintenance of the sports fields. We provided a list of all the costs, so when we did go through our cost recovery process back in 2019, we were able to surmise the total expenses associated with support support maintenance of the sports fields at $3,441. So estimated time spent per year for staff time and office time, we have the amount of time and cost associated with it. So the estimated office time per year is about $900. Here, what you'll see is a breakdown of all the time spent maintaining sports fields. We've utilized trim sheets to track time, and we've had conversations with staff to track how much time we're actually spending on the fields. And the cost associated with, total cost associated with field maintenance based on staff time is $60,475. So a summary of the cost, total reservations, 1,436, total hours, 5,257. The summary of maintenance and staff time, that equates to $64,816. So another question that we got at the previous meeting was total reservations, total amount of time being used specifically by Oregon City Youth Sports and also Oregon City Soccer. So the totals for Oregon City Youth Sports for spring ball and fall ball were 3,886 total hours. For Oregon City Soccer for spring ball and fall ball, the total time was 1,371 hours. Here is the chart that we provided to show the fee comparison based on other jurisdictions. As you see here, we currently have the standard fee for resident versus non-resident listed for Oregon City. But as you see with places like West Lynn, Wilsonville, North Clackamas, Lake Oswego, Tualatin Hills, Willamette Lane, and Albany, they are considerably more than what we are charging. Here is a representation of additional fees that are being charged. You'll see at the very top, we don't charge any additional fees. But if you look at the chart, you will see additional fees associated with field prep, permitting, lights, deposits, maintenance for pitching mound, cancellations, cleaning. So numerous additional fees associated with the rentals on top of the rental fee. So our questions for the City Commission tonight is, do you support the Parks and Recreation Department charging fees for exclusive use of the sports fields? Do you support the current tiered fee structure? And if you do not support the current tiered fee structure, what type of fee structure would you support?
Gentlemen, do you have any questions of staff?
I don't know if I'd call it questions. I do question the allocation of incurred costs when I look at things such as mowing. And, you know, in the end, I mean, we can get into this and we can pick it apart. And Oregon City Youth Sports submitted a bunch of literature to contravene that which was put out by Parks Department. You know that I said before, I quoted Frederick Douglass about it's easier to build strong children than to fix broken men or broken adults. And I still feel that way. And I realize that not everything Oregon City does is supposed to generate a profit or even break even. They're going to subsidize certain things. But we're going to have to answer, there's a lot of commonality in, this is almost like a compare and contrast assignment in school. You're going to have the Ermitinger House. You're going to have Oregon City Youth Sports. At some point, you might even have the end of the Oregon Trail. But the question really becomes, the question tonight, I think, is more about when someone is granted exclusive use of a facility, should there be a fee accompanying that? And even if there should, do we want to charge that in support of our youth and the benefits we accrue through that? So I don't agree with the numbers put forward here, and I don't even agree with some of the services that supposedly are offered. And I say that because I live next to Chapin Park. And I mean, whatever irrigation we do, that's for the benefit of the entire community. And the only time the Oregon City Youth Sports uses water is when they're keeping down the dust when they're dragging the infields. String trimming by the soccer goals. Well, you want me to show you pictures of high grass at the soccer goals? So we can get into that pushing and shoving all night. We got a larger question to answer here tonight. And do I support the tiered structure? I definitely don't. Do I want to charge youth sports anything? I don't, because I think the benefit to the community is larger than the amount that we would get. So are you saying, sir, that the amount that we would put in our coffers is which one of these figures? Which one of these figures?
I'm sorry.
Which one of these figures, when you put all these costs in here, and if you're going to charge them some number per hour, what does that add to our coffers?
So the $5 per hour would
Sure.
add for Oregon City Youth Sports $19,430
$19,400.
for their season, yes.
Is that the cost? Would that be the cost of the city to subsidize this program for the benefit of
We
our
would
youth?
still be subsidizing the program because that.
Pardon me?
We would still be subsidizing the program because that doesn't cover all of our maintenance costs.
Well, again, I don't agree with all the maintenance costs as stated, because some of those are shared costs with the rest of the community that enjoys the park, whether it be weed control. If you look at the submittals by Oregon City Youth Sports, they take issue with dugout maintenance. They take issue with the fence and backstop repair. They say that you repaired one backstop and that was due to ice damage. So you had that up, I believe, and you would know, but I don't want to get into a push and shoving match. The philosophy behind this for me is supporting our youth has benefits, has the same benefits I talked about last time. We're not teaching just sports, we're teaching leadership, we're teaching the ability to function as a team, we're teaching community pride. I mean, it even extends into the parents. And as one who has coached, I've had to coach some parents into behavioral issues too. So I think there's a benefit to it. If you want to make some kind of charge, it needs to be minimal. And if we saddle these sports organizations with a, $30,000 bill? Is that what it would be?
That's not the number I currently have.
See, I just don't agree with that. I think youth sports has a value that far exceeds the teaching of sports skills. And particularly at this time, I said this last time and I'll say it again, we're coming out of COVID. There's behavioral issues everywhere from isolation. I talked about, I don't mean to put school teachers on the spot, but they see them within the school system. And there's a difference when you get that commitment and a reward and you show the benefits of hard work and you teach camaraderie and you build a sense of community. And that's missing in so many of our organizations that I see this as having value. So for me, I'm prepared to support it in the form of a subsidy. If others want to, and we have a budget coming up, we can talk about this in the budget. If my fellow commissioners feel that there's some charge that's necessary, I'll let them speak to that, and hopefully it's minimal. And I understand exclusive use, I truly do. I don't even know how many pickup games, like when I was a kid, how many kids are riding around with a baseball bat and a glove on their bike. I think that's ancient history.
I don't think they're doing that.
I think that's me, and I'm ancient history. So I'll leave it to others to comment on what they feel fee structure should be, if any. But I don't want to argue about these individual. I disagree with them. Oregon City Youth Sports disagree with them. I think they can be allocated to the park as a whole, but not to that 60 by 60 or 90 by 90 infield. So I'd invite others to speak to it.
Mike, you have any comments, questions? I mean, could you put back the slide with the question, the first question, or the one with the questions? Because I think we need to start, we have to start somewhere in our discussion.
Sorry.
So I guess my one point of information question, so you're talking about exclusive use. Do we not also have some not issues, but we also have some organizations that are doing exclusive use of the pool?
Yes.
I mean, the pool gets kind of, to me, I mean, it's not just sports fields. To me, there's other facilities that we have where there is exclusive use.
Yes.
Okay.
And there always,
That's just a point of information, so I just was trying to get clear on that.
and there always will be. The subtleties are, how does each of these differ from the other? You know.
Similar in some regards, so. Anyway, Mr. Mitchell, I'm sorry, just had that point of information.
I guess I think there is some value, some cost related to exclusive use. But I also agree with what Commissioner O'Donnell said. The value that we get in return as a community. And so if the consensus is that we should charge something for exclusive use, I agree with Commissioner O'Donnell that it needs to be a small amount, and certainly not anything to me close to $10, realizing that we probably aren't going to recover, depending on how you calculate costs, we're probably not recovering the costs even at $10. But we're a service business in the city. On the other side of that, is there a value to exclusive use? Yeah, I think there is. And you know, the devil will be in the details where we land at an amount.
Would you like to go next? Go ahead.
I'll just say I feel the same way.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
Mr. Morrow.
Yeah, I'll just say that I agree with what Commissioner Mitchell said and what Commissioner O'Donnell said. And so I do believe that this is a service that we need to be offering at an affordable rate. But at the same time, when you look at how other cities do this, I just want it to be known that it's not out of the norm for what's being proposed. However, I do believe that we should look at an altered rate, and we should also be looking at capping the annual amount that can be charged, period. That was something that was brought up by the youth sports as something of a compromise that they would support. I believe they said Gladstone does that. And so I would be supportive of taking a look at those rates, and also a way that we would cap the maximum that they would be paying.
Well, I will be honest with you. I have read everything that everybody has submitted to me, so all of you who submitted these, if it's the same thing, it's not that I don't want to hear it, I did read it. So I'm having, where I'm having the difficulty is not that it's youth sports, not that it's the pool, not that it's pickleball. I'm having a problem with the word exclusive. The word exclusive use concerns me from the standpoint of, that means, in my definition, I was trying to look up the definition of the word exclusive, but the city's computer's not letting me in. That means some people are not going to be able to use the facility. Other people are going to be able to use it. One of the issues that I'm concerned about is, what is the amount in youth sports? Are these youth sport organizations or exclusive use organizations, are they reaching out? What is your base? What is your base of the people that are participating? Is there diversity, equity, inclusion? How many low-income students are you allowing to play baseball or softball or whatever it is? How many of those students are being pulled in so that they can have the opportunity? I know that at our pool that we have some exclusive use going on, but we could be offering a lot more swim lessons for people. We have a waiting list that is this long that we cannot accommodate because we have some exclusive use going on at the pool. So I'm trying to weigh the exclusive use versus our community at large who might not have an opportunity to do something because whoever it is, and I'm not picking on anybody in particular, I'm just saying that what I'm having a difficult time with is dealing with the exclusive use. I do like the idea that we talked about earlier of having a flat fee of some sort, but I feel that there should be some cost because as a taxpayer, as we all are, we do provide services, but we don't provide services in Oregon City for free. We can subsidize and take a reduction in whatever it is that we are doing. We can definitely do that. We're going to be going into budget session here, and we're going to have to look at that, how we balance that. So if we do it over here, how do we be equitable and not do it over here? Everybody feels that their group is the most special one, and you all are special. Let me just say that. I'm going to follow Mr. Rogers. We are all special. So how do we differentiate between this group and this group and this group? To me, we have to have equity across the board. It cannot be one group having something and the other group doesn't get it. So I don't have the answer to that question. I have just been writing down questions the whole time that this issue has come up. I don't have any issue with what you've said about youth and them being involved, but there is a cost. Now, if I knew, that the organizations weren't charging anything, which of course, how are they going to manage doing what they're doing if they don't charge something?
Well, let me speak to that.
So no, I'm not going to argue about
No,
fees or
this
whatever,
isn't an
but
argument.
I just have so many questions, I don't have any answers.
I'm not postulating an argument. I'm giving additional information. The concept of volunteerism is huge in a community, and this is a large volunteer group, incredibly large. And this group provides this service to over 600 children at a cost of just over $100,000. Think about if they walked away and said, you do it, Oregon City, what can we do for $100,000? We'd be lucky to make one hire with benefits for $100,000. You ask about DEI, I know for a fact, because I was associated with them many, many years ago, and I spoke to them recently, they offer scholarships for those that can't pay the money. And if those people, if there's anyone here from Oregon City Youth Sports, they can speak to that. But they scholarship the needy and bring them in. And I'm not sure when we say exclusive, I don't feel that they tie up the fields all daylight hours. I mean, there's open fields. So, if we come to a conclusion that there should be some fee and it comes down to a minimal fee and hopefully a fixed fee, then that'll be where we arrive. But for me, God, the isolation over the past couple of years and the behavioral issues it's caused, and I remember the things that I taught as a coach, and it was life. It wasn't just. So.
No, I don't disagree with any of that.
And I won't make the philosophical pitch again. I mean, you know how I feel. I think it's small money in the grand scheme of things, and we spend so much money elsewhere that if we're going to do this, if my fellow commissioners feel a fee is necessary, just please keep it to a minimum. That's all.
What was the formula that we were looking at before about a fee that would be fixed? I think you had the initial idea, the two of you had talked about that.
I don't think I was talking about a fixed fee, but I was talking about a reduced rate. And I'm going to throw a number out there.
Sure.
And basically what I'm, in my mind, I'm thinking about is two rates. There would be an occasional use hourly fee, and that could be $10 an hour. And then there would be a seasonal use hourly fee. And I'm thinking something in the $3 an hour area, which if you look at the number, and I'm just throwing that out there as a starting point, just as a thought. If you look at the 3,800 hours, that would be about a $12,000 expense for the youth sports organization. And if they're serving 600 kids, that's about $20 a kid. And $20 a child for a season's worth of field use doesn't seem like an unreasonable number to me. And we probably, I would, the word exclusive, I think is bothering me, but it's because the organization is not exclusive, but it's dedicated use. It's times when other people can't use it, and that's where I think the value comes in, and why I feel like I'm leaning, barely leaning, but I am leaning toward some sort of cost related to being able to reserve that fee only for use of your organization.
Yeah, maybe exclusive is, but I mean, basically exclusive means that other people can't use it. So, I mean, it's the same as dedicated.
But there's some baggage that comes along with that
I agree. I don't disagree that there's not a benefit. Like I said, I'm not arguing. I just don't have any answers to many of the questions. I did like the idea that Gladstone had, which is it's going to be whatever that number is, and that's what you pay yearly, and that's it. To me, that seemed more equitable than the hours, because what if practice goes long and you've got this extra fee, or if you don't use it as much for this thing, and who's doing the timekeeping and all that? To me,
well, I assume you're not standing there with a stopwatch that they sign up for X number of hours, and if they go half an hour over, you're not out there tracking that.
Time's up.
Yeah, our current structure, they submit their reservations, and at the end of the month, they let us know about their cancellations, their rainouts. They weren't able to use a field, and so adjustments are made based on those communications.
That's reasonable.
You did bring up Gladstone. We did do research on Gladstone because I know Oregon City Youth Sports brought them up as well. They do have a flat fee, but it's a flat fee per child. So if the child is a resident, they obviously get a better rate than non-resident, but it's flat. So per kid, this is what you pay. It's not ongoing monthly expense, upfront cost. This is what it is for the season. So if that's something that you find that we should look into and pursue as an option, that could possibly help alleviate some of the kind of ongoing costs associated with sports field rentals. The other point that we wanted to make was the additional use of the sports fields. So pre-COVID, Oregon City Youth Sports basically reserved all the fields so no one else could use them because they were priority. And so what we realized was that other people had requests for the fields. So what we asked them to do was to be more specific and intentional about the fields that they're using. Now, once the pandemic happened is where we really started running into some issues with access. Due to the fields closing with the schools, we had more people who wanted to utilize our fields. We still provided that priority to Oregon City Youth Sports, but we still had to mitigate the community need while we were still serving Oregon City Youth Sports. We do have other groups that have reached out to us and utilized the sports fields.
The Oregon City groups or groups from outside?
It's a mix.
It's a mix.
It's a mix. But the point that we haven't had a lot of outside groups because we couldn't have had a lot of outside groups because Oregon City Youth Sports had all the fields. So I just wanted to provide that clarification. The other clarification I want to kind of understand is I completely agree with all of you in regards to the impact that sports has with youth. My question to you is, if we have another sports group that is wanting to utilize the fields, are we going to offer the same benefit to them? Part of the reason why we went through this process is we realized that the application of our fees was being done inequitably across the board. So some people had to pay, but these other groups didn't have to pay. They're doing the same thing, but you're going to have to pay, but they don't have to pay. And we started getting a lot of these questions of, hey, we're doing the same thing that this group is doing. Why don't they have to pay and you're charging us? So the goal was to have a consistent, fair structure across the board that says, this is how we're going to treat these groups moving forward. And we knew we had these longstanding relationships, and we didn't want to put undue burden on these groups, hence the tiered structure. So we're trying to be fair. We're trying to be inclusive. We're trying to make sure that we maintain access for everyone in the community. And that's our goal moving forward.
See, I listened to that, and I'm not going to go down to theoretical. I don't have the NFL and AFL of youth sports here that want to use the field at the same time. I don't. And not all fields were tied up by youth sports, and fields are scheduled specifically. You'll be at Chapin, you're only allowed to use 3 of the fields, because I think Field 4 you never put into use for them, did you?
All 4 fields at Chapin are available to them.
Was Field 4?
What Kendall had spoken about previously was during COVID, when we had all of the other groups who were asking us for field usage. So we set aside Field 4 so that we could have a field available for those other groups. Obviously, the pandemic has scaled back, and those groups aren't coming to us with needs for fields.
Who are these other groups?
Other sports groups.
Who are they? Give me a name. Tell me another youth group. I have no qualms about charging adult fees. If you're in an industrial league or you're in an adult soccer club, you can pay. I've got no issue with that. But I think the information being presented, if it was subject to scrutiny, would not totally hold up. So let's just leave it at that. Who are the other groups? What other youth group has that inquired to you to use the fields? And if there's 12 hours of daylight, does Oregon City have the field tied up 12 hours a day, every day? No. See, I'm fine with a fixed cost, but I do not want the youth sports program to bear the brunt of park maintenance that should be allocated park-wide. And if my co-commissioners think there should be a fee, then speak up. It'll be whatever 3 votes or whatever the preponderance carries. But I think some of these statements being made would not hold up under scrutiny.
And I just want to clarify, the groups are Soccer Shots, I-9 Sports, Nightmare Softball, Frost Elite Softball, Oregon United FC, and Grandview Baptist Church.
I'm not sure who they are. I know who Nightmare is because I played against them back when. But the other thing that's not considered here is the value of the volunteer services and the contributions they make, and those things that they have, the financial aspects that they have contributed to our fields. I don't think anybody contributes financially to, for example, the pool like they did to the field to put in AstroTurf. You got to assign some value to those contributions made by your volunteer organizations. If that's an offsetting value, if they put up $40,000 of their money in a year and put in AstroTurf, and I go back to, if they walked away from this program, if Oregon City Youth Sports says, we give up, what can you do as Parks Director for $100,000? Not a lot. Not a lot.
And I don't discount that we continue to value that relationship, but there would be other groups we would still rent out the sports fields to. So that's what we would do. We would continue to serve the community and provide the access to the community to have sports fields and get access to sports fields.
No argument, but we act like it's an insurmountable obstacle to be able to get other groups on these fields. And, you know, I'm not going to sit here and argue it. I feel very strongly about supporting the program. If there's going to be a fee, keep it low, make it fixed, and don't escalate it year after year, because I don't want to come back here next year and have the same discussion.
We have a consensus that there should be a fee. We can get to the point of whether it's fixed and how we're going to do it, but it's either we're charging or we're not. And then if we're charging, then do we want to go with the idea that we have it a fixed rate, not per child, but it's going to be, I'm throwing out a number, this is not a valid number, but let's say it's $400 for the season, or whoever it is, and that's what the fee is.
I like the idea of a fixed fee, and I also think that it would be a lot less time for our staff to go through clerical work and all that stuff, considering the amount of hours that are going to be logged. And so if we're looking at something at a seasonal rate, I would be supportive of looking at something that's more flat and simpler for the users and for the city. But like Commissioner Mitchell said, I also, I think that if it's a one-off and it's going to be for the day, then that we have an hourly rate for that that's separate.
So I like that idea as well, that we have what you suggested, Mr. Reed, is occasional use versus seasonal use. And I guess we'll have to define what occasional is, but I mean, occasionally I rent a park shelter, but I don't do it all the time. So, I don't do it 3 times a year or 10 times a year. I probably do it twice a year. To me, that's, yes, Mr. Conkle.
Can I just say, so something real quick? So it sounds like we're maybe consensus that maybe we should charge.
Not by me. In fact, the more we talk about it, my position on no fee gets stronger, because I truly feel that if you compare whatever revenue stream we're going to generate versus the benefit that we get from this, I'll walk away from the fees. But I'm only one of 5 up here.
So so if I could, so utilizing the 3,886 hours, total hours that Oregon Youth Sports used in the fall of 22 and the spring of 23. Okay, so $3 an hour is 11,658. $5 is 19,430. And 10 would be 38,860. So that's just the range. When you talk about, I think from our standpoint, it would probably be easier to charge a per hour rate, because if you try to charge a flat fee, then you have Oregon City Soccer Club at 1,371 hours. And so how do you tier a flat fee for a field use when there's a discrepancy in the number of hours used between organizations? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's hard to say you can have it for the season for X when one group's using it 3 times more than the other.
One.
Right, you get into the same issue we're kind of trying to avoid here. But okay, if there's not consensus, that'd be great. Let us know. We don't want us to charge fees for sport field usage. We can move on. If there is, just let us know what direction you'd like us to move in.
Quite honestly, I don't understand why that's such a difficult equation. If one organization uses 1,000 hours worth of fields and the other organization uses 3, it's a 3-to-1 ratio. One can pay 3 times the amount as the other in flat fees, and we're done.
Because it's never going to be that precise. I mean, if the objective is certainty, we're going to ask them at the beginning of the year, how many hours do you think you're going to use? I mean, it's easier to just go based on what you use, so we know, everybody knows. I've used X, and I'm going to pay for it. Otherwise, I think, we only used 800 of the 1,000 you assumed. We want to be, it is a little easier to just pay based on the monthly usage because of rainouts, springtime, practices that don't happen. I mean, there's all kinds of variables that are going to go into that.
Mayor McGriff?
Yes, go right ahead.
My tolerance for the amount that we're going to charge is really low. To the point, when I really think about it, we're talking about pocket change. We've got a budget coming up.
Yeah.
We need to know, as a commission, going into that, we're going to have to fill a hole to whatever tune we thought these fees might have generated in Mr. Reed's projections. And that probably is the more elegant solution. However, what do we do when youth sport group number 3 comes along? I'm not arguing that these two groups don't provide a wonderful service to our community. They do. But what happens when marginal group number 3 comes along, as Mr. Reed has said several times? How do we charge this group that says they're going to do these things when we don't charge these groups? So where do we draw the line? That's the problem. So I know I'm talking both sides of the argument.
No,
I get it. But I think, as I said, my tolerance for the amount is so low that it really isn't worth fretting over. But I don't know how we draw the line.
I totally agree with that. What's the income stream that your approach will generate in the first year?
The $5, let's say.
$5, one of those
Yeah.
19.
If they used the same 3886,
Sure, whatever.
it'd be 19,430
$19,430.
at 5.
Okay, so if we cut that in half, it would be half of that, and we put the other half in the budget. Well, let's just do something instead of drag it on. I'm with Commissioner Mitchell. My tolerance for this goes from 0 to some small amount, sub 3. And we have a budget coming up. Huge amounts of money wander around that budget, and this is something we can say, if we have to increase the parks budget by $10,000 to cover the difference between what we would have earned and not earned, then do it.
Well, I think we have a consensus that, at least from what I hear, I'm not including you, Mr. Smith, because you haven't said much, but it seems like that there is a tolerance for charging a fee. What that is low. Am I correct on that? What I heard you say.
Depends what you come up with, what my reaction to it'll be.
I know, I'm not throwing out a number. I feel, regardless of what the number is, that there should be a charge. To me, it's only fair. Again, one of my issues is, I would, and maybe youth sports can give this to me later. I'd love to see what your demographics are. I want to see how many kids of color you've got playing, who they are, what ages they are, what's going on with your demographics of your constituents.
The other point I just wanted to bring up, because Oregon City Youth Sports brought this up, was the fact that they had an issue with the sports field money going into the general fund. So we've had conversations with leadership and finance to earmark that money to make sure that it stays with parks and can go towards capital projects and maintenance. And they said they felt more comfortable paying if that was the case, because they know it was going to be reinvested back into the fields.
Is that an issue? I mean,
for them?
No. Is that an issue for us? We don't do that now.
No, we don't do that now.
And that's a recurring theme through every one of these things. And that's an accounting issue that we can straighten out.
Well, I think that's a very that's an easy solution. Go ahead.
As I told some people in the audience, this is a 1-hour meeting that should have been 10 hours.
Yes.
I have not said a word because if I get started, we will never stop. And unfortunately, half the audience is waiting for other topics that we haven't even touched on. And I appreciate the mayor saying she read all the letters. If you read all the letters and all the things that came in, you will know that what I said last meeting is absolutely true. That groups were being forced to sign MOUs. We got that from 2 organizations that wrote us letters that stated that. We also have an organization that stated they've seen multiple versions of the fee schedule, which is what I said last time as well. Talked about all the things we talked about. We haven't even got into the Ermitinger House. We haven't got into this. The pickleball thing's back on the table because the group that didn't want to make a deal now apparently does again because they now realize that we're relooking at it all. So what we really need to do is have about 3 or 4 more work sessions, twice as long, to even get close to attempting to solve this problem. Because we are not close, and we haven't allowed these people to speak or even share their information. I'm not even sure if all the representatives from these organizations were notified. I know that I've been notifying some of them myself because the past meetings, they haven't known these meetings were happening. So here we are, 10 minutes to go, and we've only talked about one topic on this whole list.
I think we were going to get through it anyways.
Well, I know, but that's not, then we should have scheduled a longer meeting.
This is the time that we have.
I get that, but we didn't really get anywhere tonight.
Okay,
We could.
I'm going to go down the line for a consensus, if there is one.
A consensus on what?
Okay, we were asked a question. Do we support charging a fee? That was the question. That was the first question. And I have heard my tolerance is it's low. If that is yes, it's low. And we also have a no.
I'll start with no.
Okay.
I think it's very hard to make a determination on this one issue without looking at all the issues together. So
But
I really think it's premature, and I think
But
it's
I'm-
intended that way.
we need to
I think
get-
these questions are being asked by staff that way to make sure that we funnel into a decision. I don't think
We're
we're
not-
there because we're not ready, so I'll say no too.
We're not making a decision.
Then
We're
I'll
asking
say,
for
no, I
consensus.
know, but that's how we start, We haven't heard from anyone on these issues other than ourselves.
I still want us to continue exploring the option.
Of having a fee.
Yes, correct.
I agree with that. We're
I also-
not to a point of decision.
I also agree with that.
Okay.
We want to continue to explore the option of having a fee.
All right.
So you've got that direction,
Okay.
and you amended it by keeping it on the low end. Is that correct? So steer towards that $3 and under.
Well, I didn't say 3 was the number, but
I didn't say it was either, but
But 10's not.
I think, personally, I think 10 is reasonable. But, I'm willing to compromise by saying, some number that's less than that.
part of me, if Oregon City Youth Sports were to walk away, tell me, Oregon City, what are you going to do for these kids? What are you going to do for $100,000? Nothing. We just are not giving credit where credit is due for something that is furnished for the betterment of the community, the betterment of our youth, and a long-term benefit in general, especially coming out of our recent isolationism. So that's why if you push me into a corner, I'll go 0. If you come up with something 0, close to it, maybe I'll,
I'm not pushing you anywhere.
well, you're pushing pretty hard towards fees.
Well, I just wanted to say that I never came into this discussion with the idea that we would be recouping every single cent that we were losing out of this, and that regardless of any number we came to, it would still equal a coverage by the city in recognition that all 5 of us share, which is that this is a very special and valuable service to our community. And again, I say this as someone who grew up playing in Oregon City Youth Sports on those fields, and before I was old enough to, I was going there for my siblings. And so this is something that I understand, but when we're talking about having just a little bit of skin in the game, and realizing that with such a thin parks budget, where we want to do so many more things that benefit the entire community, not just certain groups that use certain facilities, recouping some of that cost that we put in is something that I think is valuable and worth it for the rest of the 35,000 other residents of this community, in addition to the non-community members who also enjoy our facilities as well.
And benefit. I couldn't have said it better. Exactly my feeling. I think there needs to be some skin in the game. I don't discount any of the volunteer work because I was a swim team mom. So I know what that involves and how much time you put in, and you put in extra time because you want your kid and the other kids to do well.
And I just want to acknowledge that I appreciate my colleagues up here having the willingness to have this conversation and, giving a willingness to compromise on this, because I'm hearing a higher end, I'm hearing nothing, I'm hearing something in the middle, and in the end, I think that the way that this is going to get solved is where each of us is a little bit upset with the end result, because that's just how our system works. We just don't get all of the things that we desire in our policies, and that's just how the system works, and that's how it's supposed to work.
And even the mayor spoke about her volunteer efforts. There has to be credit, some kind of recognition of the volunteer hours that are put forward and their value. Not even, and plus including the physical improvements, but the volunteer hours. Those things need to be taken into account.
Yeah, they are. I mean, when probably
No, they're not.
They're not at all.
Where's the offset? Where's the offset for
They
the
are not.
volunteer hours from that fee? None.
Well, then you start making it a competition about who has the most volunteer hours and do they get this discount or that. Again, I'm trying to look at equity. I'm trying to look at across the board how this is going to benefit everybody to a certain degree.
And we can do that.
And I think we can do that. It's just going to be harder than we thought. And I try to look at both sides of the issue. As you would say, Frank, there's a little bit of truth in everything. So I have to balance what I'm hearing from my community. I have to balance what I'm hearing from our staff and come to a conclusion that I can live with and that's equitable. And that's kind of how I do decision making. It's not like this side is all right and this side is all wrong, or that side's all right, this side's all wrong.
Well, you'll be one of 5 votes to make that decision,
Yeah, I
so
know
we'll
I
see.
will. So
I have something that I think we can get to a consensus on. We need one of our Tuesday night work sessions dedicated solely to this topic as soon as possible. Because if we don't give it the time, as Commissioner Smith said, we're going to do an hour at a time and spin in circles for an hour and go home and say, what the heck did we do for an hour?
But don't think that this is not a typical move, because I know we're not going to tackle this in an hour. And citizens will only come to so many damn meetings. And we've now put them through 3.
That's why I'm suggesting no more of this.
So the
Let's do it right.
next time, I don't want to have a report saying, this is the deal we made, when we threw out all the MOUs at the last meeting. So spending 5-10 minutes at the beginning saying, we made these all agreements. Those agreements don't exist. We threw them out. We want to hear from these groups that came tonight and the ones that were not invited. And here they are sitting here, again, with no answer. So yes, we need a 3-hour meeting. We need public comment first, and then staff after. That's what we need.
well, we are going to, we're going to close out the work session, and I apologize. Generally, we don't take testimony or comments at the work session. We have time. We need to have time to talk to ourselves. And like I said, I appreciate everybody that's written in because I do read it. I don't discard it, I read it. I have a little stack that I sat through and read all of that. They came in, some of them came in, a couple of things came in today. Unfortunately, I did not read it. I've not been home since 7:30 today in service of the city. So I will read them when I get home tonight, if anybody sent something in late today. But we don't discard what you're saying. We just have to weigh everything. We're not just the city commission for youth sports, pickleball, Ermitinger House. We're the city commission for everybody. So that's where we are. So we're going to adjourn the work session and we'll start back up at 7:05.